Just a really tough loss on Saturday for Duke against Illinois. Now the question becomes, how do they respond? How will this Duke team bounce back from their first adversity of the year?
Hi, everybody. Dick Vitale. Hey, make sure you listen, man, to Locked On Blue Devils with J.J. Jackson. He's awesome, baby.
You are Locked On Blue Devils, your daily podcast on the Duke Blue Devils. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everybody. Welcome into another episode of the Locked On Blue Devils podcast. My name is J.J. Jackson. So great to have you here with us today on Tuesday, September 9th, 2025. Locked On Blue Devils is your one-stop shop where we discuss everything going on inside the life of Duke athletics. And on today's show, we're going to be talking about this Duke football team and their loss to Illinois over this past weekend. They'll get set for Tulane this upcoming weekend. And who better to have this conversation with than our good friend Conor O'Neill from Devils Illustrated, who joins us each and every week here on the show. If you haven't done so already, please be sure to follow and subscribe to Locked On Blue Devils for free, wherever it is that you get your podcasts. Watch our show each and every day on YouTube. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. Follow us on X at LO_Blue Devils. 45-19, the final score in this one for Duke. The final score not necessarily indicative of how competitive the early portions of this game were. Of course, we talked on yesterday's show about all of the turnover problems that Duke had, and now they've got to bounce back from their first loss of the season. Conor O'Neill joins us on the program here today. Great to see you once again, my friend. As you look back at that first half and really when Duke was in it, it's kind of crazy that the final result ended up being what it was, considering how positive or optimistic you could have been given Duke's performance early in the game.
Yeah, I mean, Illinois' first touchdown was an 18-yard, I like to say, drive with air quotes for anybody that's not watching, set up by a muffed punt. The touchdown drive, the actual touchdown drive they have in the first half, Duke gives up a 3rd and 21. Now, granted, there's not anything fluky about that. It's just
you got to get off the field on 3rd and 21. Yeah,
that's a rough play to give up. And then it just kind of snowballed in the second half. And talking about a game with 5 turnovers, and I don't think any of the turnovers were the most meaningful gaffe by Duke. It was the dueling number 8s on the field for the punt at the start of the third quarter. I mean, Duke scores going into halftime. They've got all of the momentum when they force Illinois into a 3-and-out to start the second half. It's a 1-point game. You're getting the ball back. And then all of a sudden it's, nope, Illinois ball. Deshaun Stone and Jaden Moore were both on the field at the same time. We don't know who's at fault. Manny declined to go into which player should have been on the field, which player shouldn't have. I do know that I watched all 6 punts against Elon from week 1, and the first 3 of the Illinois game, it was the 4th punt that Illinois had, and Deshaun Stone looked like he was on the field for every one of them. So take that and run with it if you want, but it's a rough pill to swallow, and it just kind of, like I said, it snowballed from there.
Which is why, you see this in week 1 of the season, Georgia Tech had some laughs because they had a player throw on just this super oversized 43 jersey to make sure that the numbers weren't matching up and that sort of thing. I'll have to have a photo of that in one of these days this week to show everybody if they missed it. Hilarious stuff, but that's the things you got to do. When you roster more than 100 people, you're going to have duplicate jersey numbers from time to time, but it just shouldn't be a mistake that you actually make in the game itself.
Yeah, and it's one of those weird things where I've had a couple people tell me, like, there should never be dual numbers, and I get it. I understand where that comes from, but when they eliminated basically every number requirement for college football teams, every player wants to be in the single digits. Every player, and the ones that can't be in the single digits, they want to be in the teens, just because that's kind of the way that 18 to 22-year-olds think. And it's bled up into the NFL. Like you don't have in the NFL anymore wide receivers who have to wear the 80s or tight ends that have to be in the 40s or the 80s. So like I put a story out on Sunday. I think Duke has 23 instances of dual numbers, and 19 of those 23 are in the first 21 available jersey numbers. So like they have, I think it's 2 zeros, 2 1s, 2 2s. so on and so forth. So you're a lot of you're never going to see, I think Darian Mensah and one of the defensive linemen are both number 10. You're never going to see a quarterback on the field for a special teams play or a defensive play. You have the number 4s are Josiah Green and Anderson Castle. I don't know of any special teams alignments where a running back and a defensive tackle would be on the field together.
Right.
But then others, when you have confusion and when you have enough personnel meshing, wide receivers and DBs in this case, sometimes those guys practice on the same units. And that's why you get what you got at Georgia Tech for several years. You kind of get used to it after the first couple games, but I've covered teams where every time there's a kickoff, you can count on hearing the ref come over and say, okay, number 45 is now wearing number 13 because he has to change. He has to get into that temporary jersey. That was the hilarity of the Georgia Tech one, was their temporary jersey was
just so large.
Like a 5XL jersey from the 90s. But it happened. There's no undoing it. There's taking every single measure to make sure it never happens again.
Yeah, and that's what you said. I mean, just finding the other jerseys to use and utilize, because sometimes you never think that certain players are going to be on the field at the same time until they are, and it bites you in a game like this. I can think of instances over the past couple of years. I remember a game where a wide receiver and a defensive lineman were wearing the same jersey number, and the wide receiver came on the field for the last play of the game to kind of stop a Hail Mary attempt and totally forgot that we can't do that. There's a penalty. I can't recall exactly what team, but those are like the type of instances that play out and that sort of thing. So just a bummer, and it adds to kind of the storyline of miscues and errors and just things that Duke had self-inflicted wounds that they would love to be able to go back and redo, because that's not who this football team is.
Yeah, it's not who they are, I don't think. It's one of these things where we only have a 2-game sample, and they made a lot of mistakes in game 1 against Elon, mostly in the first half. And so we thought because they were all fixed in the second half, then they wouldn't bleed into game 2. But I'm at the point, again, it's 2 games in. Right now, this Duke team looks like a very talented team that is not talented enough to overcome the number of mistakes that they're making and where those mistakes are coming in the course of a game. Like that's just kind of the harsh reality of it.
So we'll see if this Duke team can bounce back. There's obviously a big quarterback that they've invested in, and Darian Mensah had a lot of good, a lot of bad, and now he's got a big emotional return trip coming up this weekend. So certainly want to get your thoughts on that, and we'll continue our conversation here in just a moment. Locked On Blue Devils here today, brought to you by our friends at 5 Hour Energy. It's time to fuel up and turn it up with 5 Hour Energy Transfusion. This grape, ginger, and lime flavored shot brings the iconic taste of a golf course favorite to a non-alcoholic boost. Perfect for sinking birdies or making memories with friends. It's a hole-in-one for your energy game. Whether you're out on the course or you just need a little extra push to power through your day, 5 Hour Energy Transfusion delivers the clubhouse flavor you love without ever leaving the green. It's absolutely incredible. You know, golf is all about good times with good people and good flavors. The grape ginger lime flavor of 5 Hour Energy Transfusion gives you the best parts of your clubhouse go-to without leaving the course or chasing down the bev cart. Now you can amp up the fun even more. Just buy, snap, and enter for a chance to win a dream golf trip for 2 to any golf tournament in the USA. Tee up that trip. Visit 5hewin.com for full rules and entry. No purchase necessary. It excludes the Masters Tournament. Ends on October 31st, 2025. Once again, visit 5hewin.com for full rules and entry. 5 Hour Energy is a proud sponsor of Locked On Blue Devils. Our show today is also brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. The NFL season is here, and FanDuel is making sure you're ready for kickoff with the can't miss offer. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. That's right. I love using FanDuel because it fits however I like to bet. When I'm feeling the player props mood, I can do that. If I want to build a same game parlay, I'm able to do that as well. Sometimes, like last night, Monday Night Football, I just wanted to jump into the live action, as it unfolded, and FanDuel allowed me to do that. So are you ready to play? Well, go ahead and download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet, and you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. FanDuel is a proud sponsor of Locked On Blue Devils. Duke football falls to Illinois 45-19 for their first loss of the season. Darian Mensah had a tough day. An interception, fumbled twice, did, however, throw 2 touchdown passes, threw for over 300 yards once again. I'm trying to figure out the best way to kind of summarize what he was able to do in that game, and it truly is just a mixed bag, Connor.
It was a bit of a mixed bag. I tell you what, to the interception, I mean, it goes on. I've said this for several years now. Interceptions always get charged to the quarterback, but they're never the 100% fault of the quarterback. This one, I think it's a lot better of a play by the DB than it was a bad throw.
Backpedaling, kind of laying back the way he did. A crazy catch. I
mean, I guess in reverse fashion, the interception that J.C. Horn had for the Panthers was one-handed against Trevor Lawrence. And I mean, it's those types of throws that the DB is not in a position to make the play until he makes the play. And that's where I kind of look at it, and it's like, yes, it's the quarterback's fault. It's always the quarterback's fault when an interception is thrown. Not all interceptions are created equal. And that interception was, I thought, a lot more of a credit to what happened against Darian than anything he did wrong on that play.
Yeah. And then
now the 2 fumbles.
Right. Let's get to those.
Yeah, that's an issue. Yeah. You have to have a little bit better awareness. He talked about it this morning with us on an interview. He just basically flatly said he has to have a little more urgency. He has to get north-south a little quicker. The one that he lost, I mean, he's trying to extend a play and run. And I get it. Like, you definitely want a quarterback who does those things and keeps plays alive. But there's an extent of it. And you have to know when you cross the line, not the line of scrimmage, but the proverbial line of trying to make too much happen, then they're putting the ball at risk. You're putting yourself at risk. You're putting too much at risk for what it's worth.
Yeah, this morning I went back and just kind of watched his highlights specifically from the game, and talking about it being a mixed bag. Some of the passes he's making are just crazy good, and haven't really seen this quarterback play at Duke in a long time, and just the talent he's got is unbelievable. I think, to his credit, what has made him so good through 2 games is when he is kind of moving out of the pocket, you never see him put his head down. Like, he's still surveying the field to see what's out there. But then, as we're alluding to here in this instance, when you're only looking downfield, you're less aware a little bit of your surroundings and to know, hey, a linebacker's right here trying to knock this football out of my hand.
Yeah. Yeah. And you've got to be able to feel it. And the only way to feel it is to get reps and get practice in it. And the only times quarterbacks get reps and gets practice in it is in games, because you can't hit them in practices. Plays are blown dead when defenders get close enough to breathe on quarterbacks sometimes in practices. Right. So I think that's if you looked across college football, I would have to verify this, but I would say if you looked across college football, the sack numbers and the strip sack numbers are higher the earlier in the season, and the later it goes in the season, the more ball secure and the more pocket presence quarterbacks develop, because they've had it for a month or 2. At this point, Darian Mensah's had 2 games of full contact. It's kind of the one position in football where you don't get live reps.
And that's everything, getting those live reps and that sort of thing for Darian Mensah. I was going back here while we're looking at his numbers, and blown away again, Connor, by game 1, 10 different people walked away with a reception for Duke football. Game 2 against Illinois, same deal. We see even Chase Tyler come up with the big 62-yarder. That's what's so impressive to me, is that there are 23 completions on the day from Darian Mensah, and he's kind of spreading the love to everybody.
Yeah, it's a product of having a quarterback who is not overly reliant on one target. I think we know Cooper Barkate is the closest thing he
12
has
is
to
the
a
final
safety net.
number. 12 is
Yep.
the final number of players that had a reception. 10 versus 12 different guys for this game against Illinois.
Yeah, that's also a product of using the running backs in the pass game a little more because they were the check down options, and Illinois was getting back in a zone. But yeah, it's he's really good, and I know that's the simplest way to put it, but the more complex way is there's a specific reason Duke went out and targeted him in the transfer portal. I've had a couple coaches tell me in the past years, quarterbacks don't get more accurate in college. Like they're, in terms of accuracy, they're kind of a finished product when they get to the college level.
Right.
So having a guy that last year at Tulane completed 65% of his passes, having a guy that can come in at Duke and complete, I think he's probably around 70% at this point right now, if he's not over it. That's what this offense needs. They need precision. They need to get the ball to playmakers in space. You don't need the big 40 to 50 yard deep shots that they were trying to hit last year with Malik Murphy. That was more a product of that's what Malik Murphy threw well. Like he could throw the ball vertically and rely on Eli Pankel or Jordan Moore to win a one-on-one battle down the field. That's not what this team has. They have a really accurate passer who can also scramble and keep plays alive.
And who can throw it deep if he needs to. I mean, I've been really impressed with some of the arm talent that we've seen from him so far. You're spot on. 73.5% is the completion rate right now for Darian Mensah. Doesn't get much better than that. All right, before we go to the last segment here, I want to talk about the Tulane game coming up here in a moment. The running game, that's something that we've talked about after the first week, and we go into this one, and once again, not the most thrilling performance from Duke's ground game. 24 carries combined for the team, just 82 yards, average 3.4. What was missing from this game compared to the last one, the longest run that Duke had on the day was from their backup quarterback at the very end of the game, 15-yarder from Henry Beelan. Prior to that, it was just Jaquez Moore with a 9-yard or 11-yarder. They didn't have the 32-yard touchdown run that he had the week prior. Anderson Castle didn't break loose for a 63-yarder. I mean, what do you make of this from Duke?
Yeah, it's kind of it's a finicky subject because if you bring it up to the staff and if you bring up whether they want to be better, they're going to point at, I think it was almost 440 yards of offense, and I think what did they average per play? 7 something.
Yeah.
If you're moving the ball, you're moving the ball.
Yeah, and you can't move it two different ways.
Yeah, and it's a time and situation type thing. When Duke is down 2 scores in the second half, you're throwing the football. Now, if you want to argue that Duke ran the ball really well on the first drive and then went too far away from it in the first half, you probably have a valid point. That's kind of where I fell into thinking it. But I also know that like sometimes the quick passes or the drop-offs, they kind of count those as rushes. Like if Darian Mensah drops it off to Jaquez Moore and he gets 8 yards on a little dump off in the middle of the field, they don't look at that as a pass play.
Right.
It's just a different way that they think of it. And so you and I can criticize them for not running the ball enough, and they can look at us and say, well, actually we only had 200 some passing yards and we had 150 rushing yards or something like that.
Right. Because we're putting this in that pot and that sort of thing. Yep.
Totally
fair. Totally fair. Just in the stats themselves, you're not seeing a whole lot of rushing, and we'll get to that. There's a big kind of difference when you look at these two teams, where right now the leading rusher for Duke on the season is Anderson Castle with 80 yards rushing. Keep in mind he had just 11 against Illinois. Tulane, Jake Retzlaff, their quarterback, is their leading rusher. He's got near 40 more yards than Anderson Castle has. So should be a pretty exciting battle coming up this weekend between these two teams. We'll turn our attention to Tulane after this timeout here on Locked On Blue Devils. Locked On Blue Devils here today is brought to you by our friends at Game Time. College football is back, and I couldn't be more excited. the tailgates, the rivalries, energy in the stands, just nothing like it. But let's be real. Actually getting tickets can feel more like a battle than the game itself. Endless waiting queues, hidden fees, prices jumping at checkout. That's why I use Game Time. It's the app that gives the advantage back to fans. The easiest way to score last-minute tickets at the best prices with no surprise fees. What you see is what you pay. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, that's promo code LOCKEDONCollege, LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Download Game Time today. Game Time is a proud sponsor of Locked On Blue Devils. All right, final few moments here on today's episode of Locked On Blue Devils. JJ Jackson, joined by my pal Conor O'Neill from Devils Illustrated. Conor, we're talking about Duke now as they get set for this big test against Tulane and Darian Mensah's former team that he played for. The storylines are kind of writing themselves in this one. People right now a little bit surprised. Tulane has opened as the betting favorite, and a lot of the numbers and analytics actually like Tulane in this game at home against the Duke Blue Devils.
Yeah, I guess I'm kind of in the opposite camp. Tulane, it says G5 next to Tulane. I mean, they're run close to a power conference program. Like they've had successful coaches, and when you stack successful coaches on top of each other, you're gonna be able to develop a program without any major drop off. That's what John Summerall has done. Willie Fritz obviously built upon it, or Summerall's building upon what Willie Fritz established. This team is a CFP contender. They manhandled Northwestern, which is a Big Ten team, supposed to be the physical conference with big linemen that just dominate the G5 level. They manhandled them 23-3, and then told everybody about how disrespected they were with the uniforms. So hopefully Duke has adhered to whatever uniform request Tulane has. But this is a big time program, and honestly, like Duke doesn't take Tulane's quarterback if he's not coming from a big time program. If he's not established and well coached and developed in 2 years as a guy that his only FBS offer was from Tulane. Like he was either going to go to Tulane or one of two FCS programs. It's kind of in a backward way, and I don't want this to seem like it's a slap in the face of Tulane, but how do I put this? Darian Mensah wouldn't be at Duke if he hadn't gone to Tulane. Like, does that make sense?
Yeah. Yep. And he did. And now he's at Duke, and now he's got this chance to come back and play against Tulane. The fact that the schedule set up this way, right, that the contracts are put in place oftentimes several years before the game actually comes to be. And here you are in a situation where the quarterback is now going to go play on the road, like at the G5 school. Yeah. Duke's going to be playing there. The emotions that Darian Mensah's got to be feeling right now as he gets set for this game. I'm sure outwardly it's just another game, as you tend to hear and that sort of thing. But let's be real. This is pretty big. He wants this one.
Yeah, the one we got today was once the ball is snapped, it's just ball. So
there you go.
I'm sure he's going to be feeling it in warmups. The ball's not snapped at that point. So I'm sure there will be a lot of Tulane fans that are in there an hour hand before to really give it to him in pregame. But he's not a guy that's really going to give you much to work with.
Right.
If you're looking for cannon fodder and headlines about, he's got to get revenge on them for lighting up his Instagram comments for 8 months or anything like that. Like, he's not that type of person. At least he hasn't been in the interactions I've had with him so far. So I wrote a feature about him last week that was basically just said he adheres to keep the main thing. And this is another one where it's like, the main thing is Duke going to Tulane looking for a win. It's not Darian Mensah comes back to Yeoman Stadium and wants to throw for 400 yards and show everybody that he's better off with his new team. Like, there's none of that. He wants to help Duke win a football game.
The main thing to me is that Darian Mensah is a heck of a quarterback, and I think we're going to see a really awesome performance from him against Tulane, against his old squad. Talking about this game, though, last thing for you, Connor. Defensively, what does this look like for Duke?
I mean, Duke has to clean up 3rd and 4th downs. It's now 2 3rd and 20-ishes that they've given up in back-to-back games.
Oh.
I think the 3rd down conversion for Illinois was only 5 for 13, which you can live with until you talk about how they converted 2 4th downs. So that number is really 7 of 13. And it's only 2, but 7 of 13 looks a lot worse in the conversion rate than 5 of 13. And it's even some of the ones they stopped. Like, one of them was a 3rd and 13 that Duke stopped. Again, the air quotes for those listening. Illinois gained 12 yards. So if you even hold them to 5 or 7 yards in that situation, they're still maybe punting the ball or kicking a field goal wherever they were on the field. But you give up 12 and stop them just short of the line. A team with a 6'3", 250-pound running back is going to run for that. Like, a team with Jake Retzlaff who can run the ball is going to run some kind of boot or RPO or something that's probably going to beat you on 4th down. So Duke has to clean up in the critical downs. And then, I mean, the other part that's obvious and jumps off the page, Duke doesn't have a turnover through 2 games. You would like the offense to stop turning the ball over. You can also help the turnover margin by getting some yourself.
And let's get some. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. DBs, get a pick. That'd be awesome to have kind of a big momentum play like that from the Duke defense. Connor, great to see you as always, man. Tell me about your website.
Yeah, Devils Illustrated is not duke.rivals.com, but if you type that in there, it'll still take you to the place you need to be. If you also just search Duke on 3, you'll figure it out. Go check it out. Coverage all week. Another Darian story coming up soon, and in-depth stuff.
Basketball stuff over there as well. Always good to see you, Connor. Thanks for stopping by today.
Thanks, JJ.
All right, that's Conor O'Neill joining us here on today's episode of Locked On Blue Devils. Always appreciate Connor for taking time to be with us on the show, and really go support his work as well. That'll do it for our program. Please be sure to follow and subscribe to us wherever it is that you get your podcasts. Also, go ahead, like this video, share it with your friends, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. And I'm there as well at _JJ_Jackson_. As always, go Duke. I'll talk to you tomorrow. My name is JJ Jackson. Thank you and good day.